Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Parry. Welcome to the KOA at Palmer Gulch. This is just behind Mount Rushmore, about 6 miles. So we are heading off to Deadwood today to do some treasure hunting along the George Mickelson Trail. I did get up a bit early today and did a little metal detecting just around the camp here, and trash to treasure ratio was pretty good. I did find 10 coins in the normal trash that I would expect to find here, bottle caps and pull tabs. So we are all set to go. We're going to make the drive up to Deadwood and ride 16 and a half miles south, turn around and go back up. And we are going to be sharing the story of the Sydney duck cache with you while we're there. So I'll give you more information about that once we get going. The treasure is rumored to be buried in a box canyon near Pluma, and a very specific description of that. So we will be stopping and seeing if we can at least locate the area that this treasure possibly was buried. We are all set here. Jack has got his knives out and ready to go. Let me show you what those look like. So Jack let his imagination get the best of him over the last several days. So he did purchase a couple of knives just in case we run into any big cats while on the trail today. So we've got about an hour drive, so we're going to get going here. We'll catch up with you once we get out and ready to start our ride. So Jack and I are riding up the canyon outside of Pluma looking for a box canyon with a waterfall. There's one right there. We'll get to that story and why that's important in just a bit. Absolutely gorgeous back here. Beautiful ride so far, following the old railroad bed. We'll get to the story of the Sydney duck cache in just a bit. So Jack and I are several miles up the trail from Pluma, following the old railroad bed. There were carriage roads, stagecoach roads that crisscrossed this entire area. Like yesterday's tale of the burnt ranch gold, the story of the Sydney duck cache is very similar in that there are multiple different versions of this story that are out there. Here is one of them. A man by the name of Jeffrey Phillips was arrested and imprisoned in Australia, was released and decided to come to the United States in search of gold and wealth. Landed in California and decided at that point he was going to try to live an honest life by mining there. Didn't have any luck, but in the meantime kept getting accused of crimes that he did not commit. Actually did decide to commit a crime, was caught, and escaped, and ended up moving to South Dakota for gold that was being mined here during the gold rush. When Phillips landed in the Black Hills, he decided to resort to his old ways of robbing others, and he met up with two other shady characters by the name of Soritz and Tolliver. So they had been robbing individuals on carriage roads and burglarizing businesses and saloons, but they decided that they were going to get greedy. They wanted something bigger and better. So they decided they were going to rob the Cheyenne Deadwood stage. And they made plans to do that. They did that one day, robbed it. They were wearing gunny sacks over their heads so they would not be recognized. There were several individuals inside the stage at the time, along with a couple of drivers. They lost their focus, and one of the drivers actually pulled the gunny sack off of Sort's head, revealing who he was. Sorts wielded his gun, shot the driver dead right there. The others realized they could see him as well. Sorts shot everyone dead. They decided they would fill their side bags on their horses with all of the gold. There was $15,000 worth of gold coin in the stage that day. And they rode up a box canyon similar to this one outside of Pluma, maybe even this one, and decided they were going to hide out at their cabin up here. So after several days, they decided they needed to have supplies. They didn't think that anyone would recognize who they were because there were no survivors in that stage. Well, it turns out there was one survivor. One of the individuals shot only had a flesh wound, but was able to tell passersby exactly what happened, exactly who it was. So when Sorts wandered down into town, into Pluma, for supplies, he was immediately arrested. The coward that he was, he gave up his buddies. He said that it was Sorts and Tolliver's plan, that they were the ones that concocted this whole scheme to rob the stage. And not only that, but he was going to lead the authorities up the canyon to where Tolliver and Sorts, or where Tolliver and Phelps were at. They pulled up in front of the cabin. Sheriff yells for them to come out. They said they've got the wrong place, at which time Sheriff shows that he's got Sorts with him. Phelps was so mad he pulled his gun out, poked it through the window, and shot Sorts dead right there. Flash of bullets riddled the cabin. Both Sorts and Phillips, Tolliver and Phillips, were both killed. Thing is, the gold was never found. Sorts had told them that it was buried up in one of these box canyons, and with repeated attempts, the gold was never recovered. Still here, maybe. So Jack and I are going to take some time right up and down the canyon here. We've got a bunch of miles to go to the south before we turn around and come back. Again, it's absolutely gorgeous. So we'll see if we can find a box canyon, which we have found one that has some waterfalls, possibly, and see if we can identify at least the area where this legend took place. So as we're riding up the trail here, ran into a small rest stop, and the Bismarck mine would have been just up there, and the Wasp mine would have been up there. Both sounds like marginally profitable at the time for gold and maybe even silver. Some old mining equipment left behind from the two mines here. Video here just doesn't do it justice as to how large these hills really are. Amazing to think that people came all the way back in here to do this terribly grueling work. So we've been riding uphill what seems like forever, and that is the direction we're going. Back with you in a bit. So we are in Englewood, South Dakota right now. No longer a town. It was once called 10 Mile. This was on the Cheyenne to Deadwood stagecoach trail, and every 10 miles there was a stop where the horses could be changed out and the riders could rest. This area here was home to an entire town when it became popular in 1890 as the railroad was built. An entire town sat here. Obviously not here any longer. So we've had our break and seen the sights, had a quick snack, and we're going to be on our way. Very cool. Glad we were here today. This is very interesting. Not sure if you can see it. There is our trail that we rode up way down below us there. We have not seen any mountain lions yet, but we're packing. We got our knives ready just in case. So that is our treasure hunting for the day. We rode for several hours, looked around. The Sydney Duck Cache with Jeffrey Phillips. So you might be wondering, what is Sydney Duck? So Sydney Ducks were a large group of men that had been imprisoned in Australia, and in large groups came to the United States in hope of striking it rich during the gold rush days. Most of the time causing trouble after they got here as well. Many of them ending their lives in much the same way as Jeffrey Phillips. Their bad deeds eventually caught up to them and caused them an early death and not such a long life. So what happened with the treasure? We don't know. With all three men that did the robbing dead, there was no way to know for sure exactly where it was, other than somewhere up in a box canyon, likely along the Stagecoach Road, which is where we're at, near a waterfall, which we went by several of. The gold itself has never been found. $15,000 worth of gold coins. This is the interesting story. I've got one more for you tomorrow. The Lame Johnny's lost treasure, but $15,000 with the gold coin is exciting in itself. That treasure is safe, also like yesterday's, safe for another day, as we didn't have any luck pinpointing where we would search if we had the chance. So, what's our plan for the rest of the day? We're going to be heading into Deadwood and looking around, taking in the sights there, getting some lunch, and then we'll see what our afternoon brings with what time we have after that. So it is afternoon and I'm out metal detecting. The staff up at the check-in desk gave me permission to detect this entire field. This is a field where lots of events take place, including weddings, and they were certain that I'd be able to find some stuff here. So I have permission to actually detect in several other spots on the property, but this is probably where I'll focus the majority of my time. It's a huge area here. I pulled a little clad, some newer change, and then just a few seconds ago, well, this. Never get tired of pulling pocket knives in really rough shape, but I'll take that home as a memento of our trip here. So here are all my finds from this afternoon out on that field. The lock to a car door, 2 quarters, 6 dimes, 10 pennies, plus an 11th penny squashed Mount Rushmore Black Hills squash penny, 1 key, and then what I'm going to consider the find of the day, even though it's in rough shape. I do like finding these. I take it home and I will add that for sure to my collection. So, got plans for this evening, actually to move on to Crazy Horse now. Instead of going back to Mount Rushmore, we're going to head on to Crazy Horse after having supper here at the campground in a bit. It is late, and I believe Jack fell asleep a little while ago, so it's going to be time to get to bed. We do have an early morning tomorrow. We're going to be driving down to Hill City and getting on the George Mickelson Trail again. Again, that trail follows the old railroad bed and the Cheyenne to Deadwood Stagecoach Road. We'll be heading north out of Hill City in search of exploring the area where Lame Johnny's treasure is rumored to be buried. As always, thanks for joining me again today. See you in the morning.